So picture a massive container ship, right? Just out in the middle of the ocean.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
And it is March 28th. The sea is rough, but, the ship is making steady progress. And in the belly of that ship are like millions of dollars worth of specialized tractor
That
parts.
were probably manufactured halfway across the world, right?
Exactly, made in a facility in Mumbai, and now they're destined for a buyer in London. Now, as an investor, you might look at that scenario and just think, well, it's just a logistical operation.
Just moving stuff from point A to point B.
Right, a simple movement of goods. But if you own shares in the manufacturing company that built those parts, that shit sitting out there in the ocean represents a literal ticking financial time bomb.
Oh, absolutely, because of the calendar.
Because in just 3 days, on March 31st, the financial year is going to slam shut.
And that cutoff date, I mean, it changes everything about how a company's health is perceived by the market.
It really does.
Because if those goods are delayed, say, there's a massive storm, or we see one of those scenarios where a canal gets blocked and traffic is halted for weeks.
Yeah, we've definitely seen that happen recently.
Right. If that happens, the physical location of that ship suddenly becomes the absolute center of a high-stakes accounting debate.
Which is wild to think about.
It is. Because does the company get to tell its shareholders, hey, we made millions of dollars in revenue this year? Or does that revenue just vanish from the current reports and get pushed entirely into the next financial year?
And that right there is the crux of why we're talking about this today. Because usually when people hear the phrase, accounting standards, they just zone out.
They completely glaze over.
Yeah, they think it's just the plumbing of the financial world, like back office technicalities that only matter to people with calculators and, I don't know, green eye shades. But I want to pose a question directly to you, listening right now. Why should any person investing their hard-earned money in shares of a listed company need to understand the granular details of accounting standards?
Well, why does it matter to their portfolio?
Exactly. Why do you need to care?
And the answer is, it matters because revenue recognition dictates the numbers on the balance sheet, period.
Right.
And, the balance sheet dictates the earnings per share, which dictates the financial headlines, which ultimately drives the stock price that you are betting your retirement on.
It all flows downstream from that initial recognition.
Precisely. If you do not understand the rules governing exactly when a company legally gets to record a dollar earned, you don't actually understand the company you're investing in.
You're just like looking at a mirage. I mean, you might see a massive revenue spike in the fourth quarter and think, wow, this company is selling products faster than they can make them.
But what if that spike isn't a massive influx of new customer cash?
Yeah, what if it is merely the result of like a subtle shift in how a complex multi-stage export contract is categorized under the rules?
Exactly. If you don't know the rules, your investment thesis is just built entirely on sand.
And we've seen historical examples of this play out disastrously, haven't we?
Oh, absolutely. Think back to the early 2000s. We had these massive companies collapsing under the weight of accounting scandals.
Right, Enron, WorldCom, all of that.
Yeah. And a huge part of those failures stemmed from companies recognizing revenue for, say, 20-year contracts on the exact day the contract was signed.
Wow, long before they actually did the work.
Long before they delivered any actual value to the customer, they were inflating the present by borrowing from a future that just hadn't happened yet.
So the modern accounting frameworks were overhauled specifically to stop that exact behavior.
Yes. The rules we follow today are designed to ensure that revenue is only recognized when a company has actually fulfilled its promises.
And deciphering exactly what those promises are is the entire mission of our discussion today. So, welcome to a brand new deep dive on the JAP Advisors Ind AS Clinic.
Glad to be here.
We are taking off the investor blinders today, and we're looking directly at the structural integrity of corporate revenue. We want to explore the philosophy behind the numbers, not just do the math.
But before we live into the mechanics of international shipping and contract law, we really need to establish some ground rules for the financial environment we're analyzing.
Good call. Let's set the stage.
So for the entire scope of this discussion, our functional and presentation currency is the Indian rupee.
Okay, Indian rupee is the baseline.
Right, and that means any other currency we encounter in these global transactions, whether it's dollars, pounds, whatever, is strictly categorized as foreign currency.
Makes sense. And our timeline is pretty fixed too, right?
Very fixed. The reporting period we are working within begins on the 1st of April and definitively ends on the 31st of March.
So everything we discuss regarding the timing of revenue has to be viewed through the lens of that specific cutoff date.
Exactly. The pressure on a chief financial officer in late March is immense, and it all revolves around that specific deadline.
I can only imagine. And we should also clarify the regulatory framework we're using today.
Yes, very important. The specific response we are dissecting today was formally issued under the Ind AS framework, which is the Indian Accounting Standards.
Right. But how does that apply if someone is listening outside of India?
Well, that's the beautiful part. For the specific topic of revenue recognition we are about to unpack, there is absolutely no difference between Ind AS and IFRS.
The International Financial Reporting Standards, so they're totally aligned on this.
None at all. The principles are completely universal.
Okay, so this deep dive really applies to all entities globally that follow the IFRS framework.
Exactly. Whether you are analyzing a company in Mumbai, London, or Toronto, the logic governing when a sale is truly a sale remains identical.
That's great context. So let's talk about where we are getting this case study, because the mystery we're going to tear apart today comes from an incredibly robust resource.
It really is.
We are looking at the issue repository on gabadvisors.com, and let me tell you, this platform hosts over 4,500 specific issues and detailed responses concerning Ind AS and Indian GAAP.
It's a staggering archive of real-world corporate dilemmas. It really bridges the gap between the abstract theory of a rulebook and the messy, complicated reality of daily commerce.
Yeah, and the coolest part is that any person can register for free on their site and submit their own complex accounting issues.
And you don't just get some automated generic reply.
No, you get a detailed, customized response delivered directly to the inbox of the email you registered with.
Which is, frankly, a lifesaver for auditors.
Oh, I bet.
Because auditors are under immense pressure to document exactly how they addressed a thorny issue regarding the application of Ind AS.
Yeah.
So having access to this level of detailed analysis is a massive operational advantage.
It gives them the necessary paper trail and the logical foundation that regulatory bodies actually demand.
Right.
Now, the specific mystery we're analyzing today was featured in the 215th edition of the GAAP Advisors Task Weekly newsletter.
And considering there have been over 230 editions published to date, that represents a sustained, rigorous effort to interpret these standards week after week.
Yeah, that's a lot of newsletters. The author is C. Iyer, director of GAAP Advisors, who actually publishes this analysis on LinkedIn.
And if you ever find yourself deeply entangled in a revenue recognition nightmare, you can actually book a one-on-one consultation on your specific Ind AS and IIRS issues directly with the author via his page on topmate.io.
Which is an amazing resource.
Yeah.
But before we dive into his analysis, we do need to state a quick disclaimer.
Yes, it is essential to state clearly that the views expressed in this analysis are the personal views of the author.
Right. They are not legally binding on the audience.
We're examining this case study to explore the educational and philosophical underpinnings of the standards. So, you are strongly requested to seek the help of a qualified expert before taking any action or refraining from any action based on the views discussed here.
Because every commercial contract has unique variables that require dedicated scrutiny.
Exactly.
Okay, housekeeping done. Let's get into the narrative. We are looking at a real-world scenario involving an export company. We will just call them a limited.
Limited, got it.
So they manufacture goods and ship them to buyers all over the world. And the mechanism they use for this global trade is a standard CIF contract.
Right, CIF. That stands for cost, insurance, and freight.
And what does that mean in practical terms for A Limited?
Well, in the logistics industry, this means the seller A Limited is taking on the responsibility for arranging the entire journey.
So they aren't just making the product.
No, they are manufacturing or supplying the physical goods. Plus, they're contracting the ocean freight to move those goods across the globe, and they are purchasing the transit insurance policy to cover the journey.
Which honestly sounds like a very appealing setup for a buyer. I mean, if I'm the importer sitting in London, I don't want to navigate the complexities of booking space on a cargo ship leaving a port halfway across the world.
Right, you just want the goods to show up at your door.
Exactly. So All Limited handles the heavy lifting. But within this specific contract, there is a fascinating quirk regarding the insurance policy.
And this quirk is what drives the entire accounting mystery.
Yes. The contract explicitly states that if the goods are lost or destroyed in transit, like if the ship literally sinks or the cargo catches fire, the insurance claim is paid directly to the importing company, the customer.
So wait, A limited goes out, negotiates the insurance rate, pays the premium to the insurance company, but the policy is structured so that the financial payout in the event of a disaster bypasses A Limited entirely.
Exactly. It bypasses them and goes straight to the buyer waiting at the destination port.
That is an interesting wrinkle.
Right. So looking at this arrangement, a limited realizes they are performing three distinct verbs. They are supplying, they are transporting, and they are insuring.
Okay, I see where this is going.
Yeah, so this leads them to submit two fundamental queries to GAAP advisors. The first query asks, can a limited slice this contract into three completely different stages of revenue?
Meaning, can they account for the supply of the goods as one performance obligation, the transport as a second, and the insurance as a third?
Precisely. And the implications of that question are absolutely massive for the balance sheet.
Oh, huge. Because if the answer is yes, All Limited can recognize the revenue for the supply portion the moment the goods are loaded onto the ship at the departure port.
Right. They don't have to wait for the ship to actually cross the ocean.
No, they can book millions of rupees in revenue right away and simply defer the smaller portions of revenue associated with the transport and insurance until the ship arrives.
And if that ship is loaded on March 28th, that means the bulk of the contract value gets recorded in the current financial year.
Boom. Right under the wire.
But if the answer is no, if this is viewed as one giant, unbreakable promise to deliver goods safely to London, then zero revenue is recognized when the ship is loaded.
Wow. So the entire value of the contract gets pushed across the March 31st deadline into the next financial year.
Exactly. It could literally be the difference between a CFO reporting record growth and reporting a catastrophic quarterly miss.
That is terrifying for a finance team.
It is. And then there's the second query, which introduces a brilliant hypothetical just to test the boundaries of the rules.
Okay, what's the hypothetical?
The querist asks, what if the contract terms were altered so that the insurance claim, in the event of a sunken ship, is paid directly to the exporter, A Limited, instead of the importer?
Oh, interesting. So they changed the name on the check.
Right. Does changing the name on the insurance payout check completely alter how the revenue is recognized under the accounting standard?
That is a really sharp question.
I have to admit, when I look at this from the perspective of how a normal human being buys things, I kind of want to argue that these are obviously three different things.
Really? How so?
Well, think about it. If I go online to buy like a high-end camera, the camera is one price.
Yeah.
If I decide I want it delivered overnight, I intentionally select a separate shipping option and pay a separate fee.
True.
And if I want to insure the package against theft, I check another box and pay a third fee. So I feel like I've made three distinct purchases.
You bought a physical product, a courier service, and financial peace of mind.
Exactly. So why wouldn't a corporate accounting standard view it the same way?
Well, it is entirely logical to view a transaction through the lens of a consumer receipt. We see line items, so we just assume separate obligations.
Right. It feels intuitive.
But the standard governing revenue from contracts with customers, which is in AS 115, does not rely on how an invoice is formatted.
Doesn't care about the line items.
Not really. It operates on a rigorous foundational framework designed to uncover the economic substance of the deal. So to solve a limited's dilemma, we actually have to walk through the 5 steps of revenue recognition.
Okay, let's lay out the roadmap. What are the 5 steps?
The process starts simply. First, you identify the contract with the customer.
Okay, got a contract. Check.
Second, you identify the performance obligations within that contract.
Meaning specific promises.
Right. Third, you determine the total transaction price.
The total amount of cash changing hands.
Yep. Fourth, you allocate that price across the performance obligations. And fifth, you recognize the revenue when or as you satisfy each obligation.
Okay, so for A Limited, most of this map is actually pretty clear. They have a legally binding CIF contract.
Right.
They know the total transaction price they are charging the importer. They know how to allocate the math if they need to.
So where's the problem?
The entire multi-million-dollar drama is completely bottlenecked at step 2.
Identifying the performance obligations.
Yes. They are paralyzed by a seemingly simple question. How many promises did they actually make?
And if a company gets step 2 wrong, the entire financial timeline just collapses.
Right, because if you identify 3 promises when there is only one, you end up recognizing revenue prematurely.
Exactly. You violate the core principle of the standard, which is to faithfully depict the transfer of goods or services to the customer.
So to figure out how many promises exist, the standard introduces a very specific word, right?
Yes, the word is distinct.
Distinct.
The core mandate states that a company must assess the goods or services promised and identify each promise to transfer something that is, quote, distinct.
But how does the accounting world actually define that word? Because, like I said, my camera and my shipping fee feel very distinct to me.
And that's the trap. The definition of distinct is perhaps the most heavily litigated concept in modern accounting.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Because to be considered legally distinct, a good or service must pass a rigorous two-pronged test. It cannot pass just one. It must pass both.
Okay, what's the first hurdle?
The first hurdle is capability. The customer must be capable of benefiting from the good or service either on its own or together with other resources that are readily available to them.
So the item has to have actual standalone value. It can't just be useless in isolation?
Exactly. And the text is very pragmatic about what benefit means. An item has standalone value if it can be used, consumed, or sold for an amount that is greater than scrap value.
Oh, wow. So if you can hold it in a way that generates economic benefit, it passes the first test. It's capable of being distinct.
Right. So let's apply that to Illimited tractor parts.
Okay. So when those parts are sitting on the dock in Mumbai, they clearly pass the capability test.
Sure.
I mean, a customer could theoretically buy them right off the dock and use them at a factory, or turn around and sell them to someone else for a profit.
They have immense economic benefit far beyond the value of scrap metal. So the goods themselves easily pass the capability test.
Okay, but what about the ocean freight? I would argue that transport also passes the capability test.
Let's hear it.
Well, I could benefit from a logistics service entirely on its own. Like, I could hire a shipping company to move a completely different set of goods. It has standalone value in the open market.
Transport certainly has standalone value. And honestly, this is precisely where many financial professionals make a critical error.
What do they do?
They prove that the items are capable of being distinct, and then they just stop the analysis there.
Oh, they think they're done.
Yeah. They assume that because the goods and the transport both have value, they must be separate promises.
Yeah.
But they completely forget the second, much more difficult hurdle of the test.
The context hurdle.
Exactly. Paragraph 27 lays it out. The second part of the test asks, is the promise to transfer the good or service separately identifiable from the other promises within the specific context of the contract?
Man, that sounds like a riddle. How do you determine if something is separately identifiable within the context of a contract?
It does sound tricky, but the objective is just to determine the fundamental nature of the overall promise. You have to ask whether the company is promising to transfer each of these items individually, or if they're promising to transfer a combined item to which the individual goods or services are merely inputs.
Inputs versus a combined item. Okay, let me try an analogy to see if I'm grasping the philosophy here.
Go for it.
Imagine I hire a general contractor to build a custom house.
Okay.
The contract I sign includes a massive list of items. I mean, thousands of feet of lumber, boxes of nails, copper piping, roofing shingles, and obviously the skilled labor required to assemble all of it.
Right. A huge bill of materials.
Now, if we look at the first test, the capability test, lumber is definitely capable of being distinct.
For sure. You can benefit from a pile of lumber. You can sell it.
Exactly. Nails have standalone value. The labor of a plumber has standalone value.
All of those elements pass the first test. They are capable of being distinct.
But if we look at the context of my contract with the builder, the nature of the promise is not a commitment to deliver me a pile of wood, a box of nails, and a guy carrying a toolbox individually.
No, it's not.
I didn't hire a hardware store. I hired a home builder.
I see.
So the lumber, the nails, and the labor are just inputs. They are ingredients being fed into a single combined item, the completed house.
Yes, exactly.
Therefore, they're not separately identifiable in the context of the contract. The builder has only one performance obligation, which is to build the house. They don't get to recognize revenue every time they hand me a single nail.
That analogy perfectly illustrates the concept. The standard forces the auditor to ignore the list of ingredients and look at the economic substance of what is actually being created or delivered.
Okay.
So bring that logic back to the cargo ship. Are the supply of the tractor parts, the ocean transport, and the transit insurance individual promises? Or are they just inputs to a single combined promise to deliver goods safely to a specific port in London?
And see, this is where the framework seems a little counterintuitive to me, and I kind of want to push back on it.
Okay, push back.
Because in the house analogy, the lumber physically transforms. It gets cut, nailed, and integrated into a structure. It ceases to be just lumber.
Right.
But ocean shipping doesn't transform the tractor parts. The parts sitting in the container in Mumbai are physically identical to the parts that arrive in London.
They haven't changed at all.
Right. The shipping is just a commodity service layered on top of a finished good. Like, I could easily call a different shipping line and hire my own cargo ship. So why is it so incredibly difficult to prove that shipping is a distinct promise? Why does the standard want to bundle them together?
Because the standard doesn't view a sale merely as the physical movement of atoms.
What does it view it as?
It views a sale as the transfer of power.
The transfer of power.
Yes. To understand why transport is often bundled with the goods, we have to look at the most crucial concept in the entire revenue recognition framework found in paragraph 32.
And what is that?
Control.
Control. Okay. This is the mechanism that determines whether we have one promise or three.
Exactly. The analysis provided by Gap Advisors makes this explicitly clear. A limited can only treat the supply, the transport, and the insurance as three different performance obligations, if and only if the control of the goods is transferred to the customer, independent of the transport and insurance.
Independent of transport, meaning the customer has to obtain control of the tractor parts before the ship leaves the dock, or like at the exact moment they are loaded.
Right.
Because if they don't get control until the ship arrives in London, then the transport cannot be separated from the supply.
Correct. Think about it. If the customer already controls the goods at the port of origin, then the subsequent journey across the ocean is a separate service being performed on goods the customer already owns.
Oh, the customer is effectively hiring a limited to transport the customer's property.
Exactly. In that scenario, the supply is one distinct obligation and the transport is another. But if control does not transfer until the end of the journey, then I Limited is transporting its own property.
Right, because the customer doesn't own it yet.
Exactly. So the promise is a single bundled package.
Hmm.
Deliver these goods to this location.
So the entire multi-million-dollar revenue timing question, whether it hits this year or next year, rests on defining exactly when control transfers.
It all comes down to control.
So how does the accounting framework define control? Because it can't just be about who holds the physical bill of lading, right?
No, it's not just a piece of paper. The definition is highly specific and behavior-driven. Control of an asset refers to the ability to direct the use of and obtain substantially all of the remaining benefits from that asset.
The ability to direct the use.
Furthermore, it crucially includes the ability to prevent other entities from directing the use of and obtaining benefits from an asset.
See, this is fascinating because it changes the perception of ownership from a passive legal state to an active ongoing power.
It really does. Control is a verb.
Yeah. It is the real-world ability to say, I am doing this with the asset, and I can legally and practically stop anyone else from touching it.
It is entirely about active authority over the economic benefits. And the source text provides a brilliant, practical litmus test to determine who holds this authority during international shipping.
Oh, a test. I love a good test.
We can call it the redirection test. It asks a very simple logistical question. While the cargo ship is in transit, navigating the middle of the ocean, who has the power to redirect the goods?
Who can actually steer the ship, metaphorically speaking?
Exactly. Can the customer deal with those goods in any manner they desire?
Let's play out the scenarios to see how this physically works. Let's look at scenario A.
Okay.
This is the scenario where A Limited hopes to recognize the revenue for the goods immediately upon loading. For that to be legal under the standard, the customer must hold control while the ship is at sea.
Right. They need the customer to be in control.
So imagine the ship is halfway across the Atlantic. The importing customer in London realizes they have a surplus of parts, but they own a sister facility in Rotterdam that desperately needs them.
Happens all the time.
Right. So if the customer has the legal right and the practical ability to contact the shipping line, provide the container numbers, and demand that the cargo be rerouted to the Netherlands,
Yes.
or if they have the ability to sell those goods to a third-party competitor while the ship is still in motion, then they are actively directing the use of the asset.
Precisely. If the customer possesses that level of authority, then control of the goods clearly transferred to them before the transport began,
Wow.
because the transport is merely a distinct service being provided on the customer's behalf. Under this scenario, All Limited would recognize the revenue for the supply of the goods when they were loaded and recognize the revenue for the transport service later as the ship crosses the ocean.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Now let's look at scenario B, which I'm guessing is often the harsher reality for an exporter trying to hit quarterly targets.
Usually, yes.
What if the contract stipulates that the supplier, A Limited, is the only entity that can call the shots during the voyage?
Well, if A Limited retains the right to redirect the goods while in transit, say, they find another buyer in a different country willing to pay a massive premium.
Oh, sneaky.
Right. And A Limited can legally reroute the ship to capture that profit, then the customer clearly does not have control.
Because the customer has no ability to prevent A Limited from directing the use of the asset.
The customer is totally powerless while the goods are at sea. They cannot deal with the goods as desired until the exact moment the container is dropped at their specified location in London.
So in this scenario, the text is unambiguous. Control of the goods is only transferred to the customer after transport is complete.
And if control transfers at the destination, the promise is a single combined obligation.
The revenue cannot be split.
No. The entity is not providing a transport service for the customer's goods. They are simply incurring the cost of transport to fulfill their single promise of delivering goods to a specified location.
Man, so the entire value of the contract must wait to be recognized until that combined obligation is satisfied at the destination port. It is incredible how deeply physical the application of these standards is. You know, we imagine an auditor just sitting in a cubicle staring at a spreadsheet, checking math.
Right, punching numbers.
But to apply the standard correctly, the auditor literally has to understand the maritime law governing the contract.
They really do.
They have to ask for the shipping documents, read the terms of the bill of lading, and determine who actually has the legal authority to pick up a phone and reroute a massive container ship.
It's all about the physical reality.
Yeah.
The numbers on the spreadsheet are just a lagging indicator of that physical power dynamic.
That is wild.
The standard demands that the accounting reflects the commercial reality. It aggressively strips away superficial contract labeling to find the true economic substance of the arrangement.
So if the economic reality is that the seller controls the goods until delivery, the accounting must reflect a single delivery promise.
Exactly.
You know, this real-world application also highlights the severe butterfly effect of logistical delays.
Oh, absolutely.
We mentioned the canal blockage earlier. If A Limited is operating under scenario B, where they retain control until delivery, and their ship gets stuck in a canal traffic jam on March 20th, they are in serious trouble.
Massive trouble.
Because the goods will not reach the destination by the March 31st financial year end. And because control hasn't transferred, A Limited cannot recognize a single rupee of that massive contract in the current year.
Not one rupee. The physical delay of a ship instantly deletes millions of dollars from their reported annual earnings.
Which could cause their stock price to just plummet.
It is a stark reminder that supply chain logistics and corporate finance are deeply, inextricably linked. The physical location of an asset dictates the financial reality of the corporation.
Mind-blowing. So we have thoroughly solved the first query. The answer to whether A Limited can consider these actions as 3 different performance obligations is entirely dependent on the redirection test.
Right. If the customer can reroute the ship, it's 3 distinct obligations, and revenue can be recognized in stages.
But if A Limited controls the routing until the ship docks, it is one giant obligation, and revenue recognition is delayed until delivery.
Got it.
But what about the insurance policy? This brings us to query 2. Which introduces a brilliant layer of administrative misdirection.
Ah, yes, the insurance illusion.
The querist asks, what happens if we change the paperwork? If the contract is tweaked so that the insurance claim, in the event of a sunken ship, is paid directly to the exporter, A Limited, instead of the importer.
Does that alter the control analysis?
Right, because if I am the CFO of A Limited, and I can point to a contract that says my company receives the multi-million-dollar insurance check if the cargo goes to the bottom of the ocean, doesn't that inherently prove that my company is the one at risk?
It seems like a very logical assumption.
Doesn't receiving the payout prove that I still have control of the goods?
It definitely looks that way.
Yeah.
But the response from GAAP advisors dismantles that assumption swiftly and definitively.
Really?
The analysis states explicitly, the party to whom the insurance claim shall be paid is completely irrelevant in identifying the performance obligations in the contract.
Wait, irrelevant? How can the destination of a massive cash payout be irrelevant to an accounting standard?
Because the standard is looking for economic truth, not administrative routing. The response introduces a critical distinction between acting as an agent and bearing the actual impact.
So a limited might receive the insurance check, but they might simply be acting as an administrative conduit.
Exactly, just collecting the funds on behalf of the customer.
So the name on the check doesn't prove who suffered the loss.
The true litmus test, according to the text, is determining who is being adversely affected in case the insured event takes place.
Adversely affected. I love that phrasing. It cuts right through the noise of the paperwork.
It really does.
Let me offer a real-world analogy to separate the concept of receiving a payout from the concept of being adversely affected.
Let's hear it.
Let's say I buy 2 highly coveted, incredibly expensive tickets to a sold-out concert for my teenage daughter and her best friend.
Parent of the year.
Obviously. So I pay for the tickets using my personal credit card. The account with the ticketing platform is in my name.
Right. You are the legal purchaser on record.
Exactly. But on the day of the concert, a massive storm rolls in, the outdoor venue is flooded, and the promoter is forced to cancel the show.
Oh, no.
The ticketing platform automatically issues a full refund for the canceled event, and that refund is routed straight back onto my credit card.
Okay.
I am the party to whom the claim is paid. I receive the cash. But am I the one who is adversely affected?
Economically, no.
Right. From an economic standpoint, I am completely whole. The money left my account, and the exact same amount came back. And from an emotional standpoint, I have no investment in the band. I was just facilitating the purchase.
The administrative routing of the cash completely neutralized your involvement.
Yes. The person who is truly adversely affected, who suffered the tangible loss of the experience they were promised, is my teenager who is devastated that the concert is canceled.
Of course.
I merely acted as an administrative agent. I collected the cash, but she bore the impact.
That analogy perfectly isolates the difference between administrative routing and true economic risk. So let's apply that lens back to the cargo ship sinking in the Atlantic.
Okay.
If the ship goes down, and A Limited receives the massive check from the insurance company, we have to look past the deposit slip and examine the economic aftermath dictated by the contract.
What actually happens next?
Right. If A Limited receives the check, but the terms of the contract dictate that the risk of loss had already passed the buyer at the loading port, what does A Limited do with that money?
Well, they either have to simply forward the cash to the buyer to make them whole,
Yes.
or they use the cash to fulfill a brand new separate purchase order from the buyer to manufacture replacement parts.
Exactly. In that scenario, A Limited is just like the parent with a credit card refund. They are economically neutral.
They are just a pass-through entity for the insurance money.
Right. The party who is truly adversely affected, the entity whose factory operations are grinding to a halt because the tractor parts they own are currently sitting at the bottom of the ocean, is the importing customer.
The customer bore the true commercial risk of the voyage.
Therefore, the customer held control of the goods during transit, regardless of the fact that A Limited's name was on the insurance payout.
Wow. The administrative routing of the cash does not dictate or alter the transfer of control.
Not at all. Economic risk and the active ability to direct the use of the asset are the only metrics that matter.
It is incredibly elegant once you strip away all the surface-level distractions. The accounting framework refuses to be fooled by the paperwork of an insurance policy.
It demands to know who feels the pain when things go catastrophically wrong.
So, if A Limited receives the check, but is legally obligated to manufacture replacement parts at their own cost to fulfill the original delivery promise,
Then O Limited is the one feeling the pain. They are adversely affected, meaning they retain control, meaning it is a single combined obligation.
but if they just hand the money over to the stranded buyer, the buyer had control.
Exactly. The framework is designed to be impervious to contractual window dressing. It forces financial preparers and auditors to analyze the deep economic substance of the promises being made.
Ensuring that the revenue reported to the public is a faithful representation of the value actually transferred.
Precisely.
Man, we started this deep dive with a seemingly simple question about an exporter, a ship, and an insurance policy.
And look where we ended up.
I know. To answer it, we had to traverse a rigorous 5-step framework, deconstruct the philosophical meaning of the word distinct, explore the active, ongoing power dynamics of control, and finally, separate administrative agency from true economic impact.
It really demonstrates why understanding accounting standards is not an exercise in memorizing dry rules.
No, it's not.
It is about developing a critical, analytical way of thinking about how commercial transactions function in reality.
And returning to our opening premise, for the investor, this entire journey is the lens through which you must view every single earnings report.
Absolutely.
When a manufacturing company releases a press release claiming a massive, record-breaking leap in export revenue right at the end of March, you are no longer just looking at a number.
You now know to ask the structural question.
Did they actually satisfy a combined performance obligation by delivering the goods? Or did they just rush to load goods onto a ship on March 28th under a contract where they retained control, artificially inflating the current year's numbers?
Understanding the difference changes everything about how you value the quality of those earnings. It allows you to separate the underlying commercial signal from the noise of the financial public relations.
Beautifully said. As we begin to wrap up this analysis, there is a lingering thought regarding the future of these rules that I think is really fascinating.
Well, with that.
Well, the entire framework we discussed today hinges on the definition of control found in the standard, right? Specifically, the ability to direct the use of the asset and prevent others from doing so.
Yes, the redirection test, as we applied it to the cargo ship.
Right, the human ability to pick up a phone and reroute the vessel.
Yeah.
But the trajectory of global supply chains is moving rapidly away from human intervention.
Yeah.
We are entering an era of entirely digitized logistics.
Oh, that's true.
We have shipping containers equipped with real-time GPS and environmental sensors. But more importantly, we are seeing the rise of smart contracts executing on blockchain networks.
I see where you're going with this.
These systems use predictive artificial intelligence to dynamically reroute shipments based on real-time data, weather patterns, port congestion, sudden spikes in regional demand, and they do it without any human making a conscious decision.
The algorithm just optimizes the journey autonomously.
Exactly. So if an artificial intelligence algorithm is dynamically directing the routing of the ship based on preset optimization parameters, and neither the human customer in London nor the human supplier in Mumbai is actively making the day-to-day decisions to direct the goods.
Who truly holds control under the strict text of the standard?
Right. If the ability to direct an asset is delegated entirely to an autonomous system, how does an auditor prove which party has the power?
Man, that is a profound hypothetical. And regulatory bodies will inevitably have to address it.
They have to, right?
Yeah, because if an algorithm is acting impartially to optimize a commercial journey, distinguishing between the supplier's control and the customer's control using the traditional metric of human intervention becomes incredibly murky.
Very murky.
The foundational philosophy of identifying who bears the ultimate economic risk will obviously remain intact. But the practical tests we use to identify control, like picking up the phone, will undoubtedly have to evolve to interpret an automated reality.
It is a complex reality to ponder the next time you track a simple package on your phone and watch that little digital truck inch across the map. Like, who is really in control of that cargo?
It makes you think.
We have journeyed from the murky diagnostic waters of our opening premise to realizing that, armed with the right framework, the true anatomy of a corporate contract can be seen with incredible clarity. You just have to know how to interpret the signals.
We hope this exploration has provided a clearer lens through which to view the financial world.
I want to sincerely thank you, our audience, for your time and your intellectual curiosity today.
Tackling the intricacies of global revenue recognition requires a willingness to dive deep.
It really does. And we deeply appreciate you taking the plunge with us to understand the mechanics behind the market.
It is always a rewarding experience to unpack these complex structures and find the logical core beneath them.
We strongly request that you follow or subscribe to the JAP Advisors Ind AS Clinic. You can find our deep dives on Spotify, Amazon Music, or YouTube, whichever platform you prefer to use to listen to JAP Advisors Ind AS Clinic.
Subscribing ensures that you never miss a detailed analysis of the rules that govern the corporate landscape.
And we have one final vital request for our listeners. Please take a moment to share this deep dive. Share it among your professional contacts, your colleagues, and your audit and finance teams.
It makes a huge difference.
And we want to make a special specific plea. Please share this with students who are currently pursuing the CA course.
Yes. Helping to spread critical practical knowledge on the application of Indian accounting standards is absolutely vital for equipping the next generation of financial professionals.
They need these tools to maintain the integrity of our markets.
Because the broader the fluency we have in these standards, the stronger and more transparent the entire financial ecosystem becomes.
Exactly. So until next time, keep questioning the numbers, keep looking for the underlying economic substance, and we will see you on the next deep dive.